Hey everybody, how you doing? Welcome. It is 11:06. I am 6 minutes behind, so I'm gonna start sharp at 11 Eastern. But it's okay. I'll tell you why I was a little tardy. I was a little tardy because, to put it very simply, I for the first time was watching Stumptown, and I don't know if you've ever seen Stumptown. It is with Kobe Smulders, and Kobe Smulders has a great lineage of programs she's been on, most notably How I Met Your Mother. And then, of course, I'm turning on my computer, in the movie theaters, you've seen her as a member of the Avengers team, kind of like support staff, right? And from, in fact, she was in the first scene of the Avenger, or the first, I should say, Act One. Remember when Samuel L. Jackson and was trying to figure out who was attacking was Loki, and then she was doing something else and wound up shooting at these guys that turned out to be Hydra. We get the idea. Okay, that was it. All right. Anyway, um, decided to devote this segment to a kind of a going over of the Las Vegas Stadium situation, sort of a check-in, because look, it has some issues that need to be um, properly discussed. Um, because you see bits and pieces. You've got one organization. Well, actually, the Las Vegas Sun is all but dead. Uh, this is the only organization that has talked about what's really going on with respect to the Las Vegas Stadium. I call it Allegiant Stadium. Welcome to Zendy 62. Everybody else is bent over backward. There's not a lot of folks. Okay, there's not a lot of everybody's. But you know the drill. Las Vegas Review Journal is the Homer news organization. The Las Vegas Sun is, I think it seemed to be broke. When I went to the Las Vegas Sun and I checked on Las Vegas Raiders, because they have it, Las Vegas Raiders in the banner, right? The last article of any kind they had up there was, what was it? It was September 17th. Yeah, September 17th. And then they had one from the 9th. It's like everything about the Raiders stopped at the 17th. Just went, they reported nothing, which pure and simple tells me, hey, you know what? They don't have. I feel compelled to talk about the power situation, so I'll do that later. And I say that because there was just a tweet that popped up about that, and uh, and PG&E just shut off the power for a lot of people. So if you're able to watch this on a smartphone, um, and you can only do so for a little bit of time, I appreciate the time that you're here. Uh, a horrible situation, horrible situation. And I think what I'm going to do is talk about this a little bit, and then devote another more time to a live stream about the power outage, because that's horrible. But at any rate, what is happening in Las Vegas Stadium? The latest is that the roof is late getting up, and the reason is, well, it is said the reason is uh, they blame this, but I'm really not buying it. And they say that, okay, the they that says this is, well, it came from a source to Vital Vegas, the blog, and then it was spread around, was confirmed by a number of people. But apparently, someone, and I'm hesitant to say this because I, can you believe that you have a facility that's $2 billion in climbing in cost? Okay, think about that. And yet you don't have the proper security to keep people from coming in and stealing material. Does that make any sense to you? It doesn't make any sense to me. But if that is true, it means that someone didn't do a great job of security, and it means that somewhere along the way there's going to be a gigantic lawsuit. There is a reason that on Monday you didn't have a lot of people working on that property. It wasn't a holiday, okay? Something was wrong. You could just look at the property. I did so. Where are the cars? There are only a handful of them on the south end near the construction barracks. That's it. You didn't see a lot of people walking around, and one couldn't say, well, gee, they were inside the stadium. Well, okay, if they were in the stadium, then how come there aren't parking cars in the parking lot? A lot of them, like we normally expect, right? What's going on? Maybe vacation on Moss? Something? Eh. It also leads to another possible explanation on top of everything else. They don't have enough money. Okay? They have, it's not even 750 million. How you doing, John Akala? How are you doing? It's not even 750 million. It's really 745 million that they received from the bond issue. They're 5 million short. And that's according to the numbers from the bond issue itself and what was reported as terms of total bond amount sold, right? It was actually 600, it was supposed to be 650 million, really, and it turned out to be 645, 647 million, somewhere in there, but it was short, okay? Then, the Raiders PSLs performed well, but they were supposed to come up with 250 million, which they did, and then went beyond that to the tune of, I believe, 294 million. A really great performance. But the trouble is that great performance is offset by the fact that they haven't sold enough sponsorships. Sure, they have Allegiant Stadium at what, 400 million? But all the other sponsorships you've heard about, for example, the Coca-Cola sponsorship is not really Coca-Cola. It's Ray's Bottling. It's not Coca-Cola. So it's not in the 100 million level at all. 20 million over a period of years, perhaps, but it's not high dollar. It's not a founding partner sponsorship. That's true for a number of sponsorships. Libby, the restaurant, that's not high dollar sponsorships. That's a service provider. They deliver food to the suites, okay? So when you start adding it up, you start thinking about it, you've got Cox, Caesars Entertainment, PPG, right? Hey, welcome to Zenny 62. You've got, on top of them, the aforementioned Allegiant Airlines. So in total, you have about, let's be generous, 7 or 8 total sponsors, not all founding partner sponsors. The common number of sponsors to have, particularly founding partner sponsors, are between 11 and 14. The Raiders are nowhere near close to that, which means they are nowhere near close to clearing $1 billion in sponsorships. By contrast, the Falcons cleared $1 billion, 1.4 billion. The Crown Prince example is Chase Center, where the Warriors play. That's $2 billion in sponsorships. Las Vegas Stadium, Allegiant Airlines Stadium, is pulling up the rear by far. Its brother, SoFi Stadium, hey, SoFi Stadium's looking at what? That's a $600 million naming rights agreement. And then American Airlines paid $900 million. Did you hear me? $900 million to name the field around it. So if you think about it, that amount, that comes to $1.5 billion. You could take that $1.5 billion and solve pretty much all of the cost problems that Las Vegas Stadium has right now. It comes down to money. It comes down to money. And then they have to pay Las Vegas police Las Vegas Metropolitan Police, the Las Vegas finest, to monitor the stadium 24 hours, 24 and 7, that's more cost because they didn't have to do that before. But I find it just incredulous. I mean, seriously, just shockingly. I mean, it's like you got to be kidding me, man. Seriously, that that the the security planning was so poor that this situation happened. And you can look at you can look at you can look at um, you can look at the situation from the new camera that's installed at third deck. Now, you want to talk about good news? Here's some good news. The third deck of Allegiant Stadium will provide the best high deck, high altitude, low dollar value to watch an NFL game in the league. Have you seen the photographs from up there? That is not a bad seat. And this is from a guy who hates sitting up there. I've only been up to Mount Davis once, okay? When I was at the Super Bowl, well, I've been to 9 of them. Okay, when I was at the 2008 Super Bowl, I was on the 50-yard line, but 3 decks up. And that was an okay seat, you know, but Las Vegas Stadium is going to be better. So when this thing when they finally get this thing right and finished, it's going to be a heck of a fine palace for football. I'm telling you, it really is. Al Davis would be very proud of his son. But it's getting from here to there is the problem. And it's because they rushed this state schedule. And I'd love to talk to the people that really felt it was important to push this. And you got to say, hey, it was Mark Davis. But I think it was more than Mark Davis. And I go back to something that a person told me who worked in Las Vegas media. I'm not going to say who or which outlet, but it wasn't the Review Journal, okay? But this person said that there were hands involved in the Las Vegas Stadium situation that should not be there. And I said, what do you mean? And the person said, that's all I can say. There are hands involved in the Las Vegas Stadium situation that should not be there. That comment blows me away to this day because it makes you wonder. I mean, it sounds like, was it the mob? I don't think so. I hope not. Casinos. Whatever the person meant, that person did not intend to present a pretty picture of the situation, okay? That person did not intend to present a pretty picture of the situation, So, and then on top of that, you have the parking situation. Have you seen where they're going to park? My last live stream, we looked at it from a Google Maps perspective, right? Raiders 1967 actually went over to the Friar area, another part. Both of them are extreme distances. The one that I showed you is a good 2 miles away. And while we saw it in ideal conditions where there are basically almost no cars around, you and I both know that's not going to be the case moving forward. You and I both know there are going to be cars all over the place and long lines and traffic jams. That's going to be a nightmare. Straight up nightmare. No question about it. No question about it. Straight up nightmare. And so the question is, what kind of, look, let's take a really honest perspective on this, okay? Really just 1,000,000% honest. As I talk to you, okay? As I say this to you right now, this is October 9th. The stadium in 1 year, what will it look like? If you take you take the fact this is October 9th, right? The question is, where should it be on this date versus where it's at? And to answer that question, we have to go to our, I call it trusty, busty, handy dandy Las Vegas Stadium uh, construction timeline. That's what. That's where. And so I go back to that famous video that was created by Mortensen McCarthy, and you and I are going to run it. Now I know some of you have criticism about it because you say, "Oh well, gee, you know they made other changes, they made other additions to get around, the roof problem, the truss problem, right? Okay, but you can't decide in normal fashion that you're going to build your apartments, you build your bathrooms, and have them exposed to weather with all of the walls and flooring and everything else that isn't designed to be rained on, and yet because you're exposing it to the elements, it gets rained on and all kinds of weather, and you have to deal with fixing that problem later. So you can't just willy-nilly just do things out of sequence. It requires thought and planning. Calbert says, hello, very sad to hear the news about the A's. I'm not, because nothing's final. Okay, I mean, nothing is final. So it's like, I mean, nothing is final in this. So so why are you sad? I am not sad at all. But right now I want to talk about Las Vegas Stadium, because that situation you're talking about will get resolved, and I'll tell you why. The commissioner of baseball has no idea what he's talking about. When he says that the A's want public money, they are a pin stroke away from getting access to as much as $700 million in money like that. It'll be the largest single subsidy the city of Oakland's ever given out to anything, for anybody, for anything, okay? At a time when the homeless problem is at its most acute. But that's what it will be, okay? So when I heard Manfred say that, when I saw the headline, I didn't hear him. When I saw the headline, I thought, this dude doesn't know what he's talking about. I mean, I don't care if he is the commissioner of baseball. He has no idea what he's talking about, because it's called Senate Bill 293. All he's got to do is look at it. You can read it online. He didn't do that. It's been sailing through the legislature. Garbage. And for those people who might say, well, gee, they can only use it for infrastructure, read the damn bill. You can use it for housing. You can use it for aspects of the stadium. Let's say the stadium had housing as part of it, which I think it does or should. Guess what? You could use part of that money to build that aspect of the ballpark, right? If you read the legislation, it gives the athletics in the city of Oakland wide latitude. I mean wide, okay? It's not funny. When I read that, I just started laughing. I started, completely cracking up, okay? Okay? I mean completely cracking up, all right? It's like, are you kidding me? They have so much latitude, it's not funny. Now, back to the Raiders problem. Somebody asked me, I think on Twitter, they tagged me, Russell Rivera on October 8th, does this hurt our lawsuit in any way? Can the Raiders use this whole political debacle to further their argument? This is what I'm reading right now, okay? Take a look at this. All right. Russell Rivera, does this hurt our lawsuit in any way? Can the Raiders use this whole political debacle to further their argument that a deal couldn't be done on Coliseum property? Things seem to be a mess right now. Zenny 60 Dr. Death Source, I've seen this, okay? Schaaf also confirmed that Major League Baseball Commissioner Rob Manfred said the A's might move to Las Vegas as a result of the lawsuit. And see, Libby didn't help herself. The reports of that are accurate. This is the city that came out of his mouth. Okay, and Libby didn't help things. She needs media training. But okay, and we stand with Oakland says nope, completely separate issues. A's and Major League Baseball trying to leverage their position with the city desperate to keep them. I don't blame them. However, leveraging the position for prime real estate at below market value isn't acceptable, and I agree. Daniel Baker asks, isn't that basically what the Raiders asked for too? No. With the Coliseum land at a big discount, I agree with you. Selling that real estate at a discount is basically the same thing as a public subsidy, which was a no go from the start. The Fishers can't afford it without that land, unlike Mark. Um, Daniel Baker says, I didn't say Mark couldn't afford the land. I said Mark couldn't afford to build his own stadium. While the Fishers can, they don't need to have the extra development to help fund the park. And Dr. Des says this is completely correct. Let me add to that. I'm not going to write here because I prefer to do it on my own platform. Well, okay, YouTube isn't my own platform, but this is my channel, and I do make money from this. Okay, so let me explain. First of all, for me, the situation is that what I said earlier at Howard Terminal, with what is called the Howard Terminal Infrastructure Development District. Okay, the A's and the city of Oakland stand to collect as much as $700 million in tax increment financing generated revenue from a 40-year bond issue, assuming not just the standard 2% increase in assessed value annually, which is allowed by Prop 13, but also a land turnover rate of maybe 2%. And the first version of this, I assumed no land turnover. I don't want to get too far into the weeds, but the reason I mention land turnover is because when you sell land under Prop 13 law, it's bumped up to the market value at present day. So this is why you want your parents to give you a home that they lived in California, okay? Because if they bought their home 30 years ago, they're paying property taxes based on an assessed value from 30 years ago, all right? The minute they sell the property, it bumps up to present market value. So if you've been in California for 30 years and suddenly you're able to sell your home, you're going to make a killing right now. I mean, a killing. The only question is, where are you going to move? But if you do, like, for example, what my friend Bill Boyd's parents did, they basically turned over the home to him. So his property tax is really low. I think it's, I don't want to cause you to do the math and figure out what it's worth, but I mean, he's really, in terms of what he would pay if it were current market value, he's really getting away with it. All right. But see that, but when I point out that is that how that applies to Howard Terminal is that in the area around it, the tax increment finance area, which hasn't been drawn up yet. Okay. The last time a tax increment financing zone was drawn up that had to do with Howard Terminal in that area, in Jack London Square, was in 2010 as part of a study written for Let's Go Oakland, the ballpark group that was headed by Doug Boxer and Mike Gilmetti. Good guys, by the way. But that group, okay, commissioned the Gruen and Gruen study, which then established the tax increment financing zones that can today be used as the basis for the Howard Terminal infrastructure development area. All right. So if you use those numbers, as I did, and then you remember that the stadium is privately financed, okay, what does that mean? It means two things. First of all, it pays property taxes. Second of all, in terms of the total tax increment financing calculation, guess what? The A's own property taxes become part of that calculation, okay? So basically, the A's can pay in to the addition of affordable housing at the facility and the improvements to the zone around it. That's why it's very important that the stadium maintain a private financing status. But, but, still with this gigantic subsidy. From what I told you, what it means is this: they don't need the Coliseum. Now, if the A's make the argument, well, we're restricted, my retort is, look, okay? My retort is this. Hey, my retort is this. The problem is that, and I'll get to your comment, Cowboy Wrestler, because you made it something interesting I want to respond to. But my problem is this, okay? First of all, there's a total misunderstanding of the project because the project, by its nature, is complex. What really made it complex is an exclusive negotiating agreement that gave the athletics the right to basically choose either Howard Terminal or the Coliseum. That was the idea. Pick this one or pick that one, but don't pick both. But there was nothing in the language that explicitly prohibited the A's from picking both. So guess what they did? They got big eyes and said, we'll take both, all right? And what they put out in that drawing with a flattened out stadium scared everybody. That's what happened. And then Rebecca Kaplan, the president of the city council right now, went ballistic. So Rebecca, who has been a 9-year rival, political rival with Libby, and the two don't like each other. Why? I don't know. I've tried to get them together. I'm not kidding you. It doesn't make any sense to me. It's never made any sense. But I hate the saying because it implies that things can't be fixed. But for now, it is what it is. Okay? And what it has done is it's created some fractious relationships that have hampered policy. Okay? Okay? Oh, and by the way, I haven't even mentioned the county of Alameda yet. Hold on a second, all right? And at the center of all of this is Libby, because I'm talking to one person I won't mention and keep saying, well, you're a sister. And I say, yeah, she's my god sister. Yeah, your sister did this. Your sister did that. Your sister did this, all right? Look, the problem with Rebecca and Libby caused this. Rebecca is running for mayor. She's going to run for mayor again. She, could win this time. We'll see. But I think she'll make a great mayor if she runs. I just hope that, well, I'll get to that in a second. I want to get off into a digression. But my point is this. Rebecca is the only person who would have the kind of brain that works in such a way that she would get Barbara Parker activated, who is our city attorney, to take the action of filing the kind of lawsuit that she did against the county. Had John Russo been the city attorney, he would never have done that. John Russo is the person that spearheaded the research that created the process that's got us this far. So you can really thank John for spending his own money, well, I'm not saying his, but his own money from his office holder account when he was city attorney to get the HOK study done that surveyed all of these properties, including Howard Terminal and the Coliseum and Uptown, which was number one until Jerry Brown came along and said, I don't want a ballpark in the blankety blank Oakland as long as I'm mayor, downtown ballpark. He said that. He actually said that. I repeat, he actually said that. Okay? So John Call asks, will the Coliseum be torn down, you think, once the A's move to a new stadium at Howard Terminal? I hope not. And let me get to that in a second. Well, let me say that. I hope not very quickly because we need the convention space and we need to think about sports as an economic development. Once again, I'll explain the reason why that is in a moment. But what I'm going back to is the complexity of this problem is really the issue. Because like Cowboy Wrestler says, well, the two sides aren't seeing eye to eye. It's really Libby and Rebecca and the county. It's not so much the A's, okay? Because the A's can be directed. As far as I'm concerned, the A's have nowhere to go. They can talk about going to Las Vegas, but they need a plan to get there. It's going to be a long time because there's nothing happening in Las Vegas. All right? The minute, because there's so much construction around there, the minute you start talking about building a baseball stadium over here on barren, brand new land, you know what happens? Boom. Other people start buying up the property, making it harder for you to buy it when you finally do. That's the problem that beset the Raiders in the first place. If the Raiders had really understood exactly what they were getting into, and I said it just like that, they would have went along and insisted that the tax increment financing zone that was supposed to be part of the original stadium authority remained. Why? Because that way they could capture the value of the land as it increased and used it to provide infrastructure improvements and transportation improvements. Instead, now they're stuck because they still haven't went to the governor, or if they did, they're not talking about it, or the legislature to ask for a reinstallation of the tax increment financing provision. And I mentioned that to Elliott McCabe, the Raiders Bank of America representative at the CES party this year, and he nodded like that. And so did Dan Ventrelli, the Raiders attorney. I have never said anything about the Las Vegas Stadium project that, were it not done, that if it were done would not improve the project. Everything that I have, every aspect of the project I've criticized has called for improvement. Hey, look, think about it. Hotel tax is too small. What happens when you increase it? No, you don't have as much of a fear of default falling on the taxpayer, right? There's one. I mean, hey, put a property over there that you own that has a hotel on it, which means you can capture revenue from that, right? I can go on and on and on about the stuff that I talked about. All of it would add up to net improvements. But see, all of some of you here is, oh, he's criticizing. I don't just criticize. When I point at something, it is because I see that there's a problem. And if I keep mentioning it, it means the problem, what? Hasn't been fixed. Okay? So in the case of coming back to Oakland, all right, the problem in Oakland, Libby's at the center. You got the county of Alameda over here, and Libby's stubbornness that has pissed off the county, okay, on more than one occasion, and the Raiders, all right, okay, which is why when the lawsuit was filed by the city of Oakland, they didn't have the county of Alameda as a partner, and they didn't have the Coliseum Joint Powers Authority as a partner. There's a reason for that. It's not that the lawsuit isn't just. The lawsuit has nothing to do, and that's why, okay, and Black Lion says, like little kids fighting. Sad part is Oakland Raiders are suffering. You're right. Egos. No, cowboy wrestler, you're absolutely right, okay? And Herb Leonard says they need to put a pro football team in. Yeah, they do, okay? No, but it is real, all right? Cowboy wrestler says if Oakland had officials like Willie Brown or Tom Bradley, this deal would be done faster than a speeding bullet. Yeah. But Oakland has a way of, Oakland's a crab barrel city. Robert Bob pointed that out to me way back in 1999, early 99, before I went over to economic development. Because he wanted me to run I wanted to run economic development. He had Bill Claggett do it. I have nothing personally against Bill Claggett, okay? Now, back then, I felt that Bill, and I, had issues with the way that I was as a person, as a black guy who spoke the Queen's English and was, bright. And I told him so. Because we had lunch, because Robert Bob says go have lunch with Claggett. So we had lunch at what used to be called Max's. It's closed now, or maybe it's something else. Anyway, this was early, like the first week of February of 2000. No, excuse me, first week of February of 1999, and excuse me, not the first week of February, the first week of November of 1998, because we were getting to wind down. Anyway, after I had a very tense and unpleasant lunch with Bill, and we're friends now, okay? Because you called me much later, and we were fine. But facts are facts. I came out of there and I was like, I'm done with Oakland. I'm ready to get out of here. I don't know what I'm going to do money wise, but I don't care. I'm going to figure out a way to get out of here. And that's what I was thinking. And just as I was thinking that, I was going out of the city hall door, and in comes Robert Bob. And I said, "Mr. Bob, how you doing?" He goes, I said, "I just met with Claggett." And he goes, "Oh, how did it go?" And I said, he says that I talk like I think I know everything. And Robert Bob said, "You do talk like you think you know everything. You're young, you're black, you're smart, you're a threat. Oakland's a crab barrel town. They like to pull each other down. Keep that in mind. What's going on between Rebecca and Libby and the county? They're all pulling each other down. You see? I know it. You thought, oh, long story, but it gets to a point, doesn't it? Right? That's Oakland's big problem. It can't collectively stand to see one person as the hero. And it's for a set of concrete reasons. In Libby's case, Libby needs to bring people together. That's what task forces do. So you have a task force. Okay, you can't have every single council member on the task force, right? Why? Because we have something called the Ralph M. Brown Act, Public Meetings Act. But we can't have a quorum. So you have maybe 2 council members and the mayor. Okay, fine. So they report back to the an overall council or committee. Fine. But the whole point is add Oakland business people on it, Oakland community people on it, make it big, bring in a caterer with dinner once a month, make it an event that people have to be at. All right. Let it get big to a point. Okay. And then come out of that with a plan and publicly present the plan. Right? And then keep the task force going to adjust the plan and have, emergency meetings and figure out how to deal with things like this. If she had done that, we would not be in the situation we're in right now. But Libby didn't do that. Libby likes to play Don Quixote, going after the windmill. I'll do it myself. I am Superwoman. Yes, I can get it done. And, in an era where we have a lot of superwomen, I get her. I get that. But sometimes you got to learn when it's a good idea to put down the weapons, And I think sometimes Libby doesn't know when it's just time to put down the weapons. And unfortunately, I think this is one of those cases, okay? Herb Leonard says she's not a team player. Well, you have to remember something, okay? Libby's right, and I've said this before and I'll say it again. Libby's rightful issue is how people regard her as an attractive white woman. You hear what I'm saying? The whole thing about her being a Skyline cheerleader and this and that. And I've heard more than one person talk in ways that are completely nonsensical about Libby. And I'm telling you, it does get to her. She won't admit it publicly, and nor should she. Well, maybe she should, but maybe she should. I say I waffle because I think that she would be accused of what Hillary Clinton was accusing of when she started crying during when she was running for the presidency the first time. But I digress. My point is, it affects her. So, and I say that, so when you say team player, her retort is, wait a minute, I'm the mayor. So I want you to be on my team. I don't want you to join. I don't want it. It's not a matter of me joining your team. It's a matter of you being on my team. But see, what Libby has to do is learn the art, and it is art, of crafting a group, okay, like she had to start, that's fervently behind her, but each one feels some ownership, right? Ownership. But Libby had that when she had Friends of Libby, myself, others. It wasn't formally called that, but look, she grew up in Oakland. We all know each other. Her and Phil Tagama and I, we only know each other like 30-something, 32 years, I think it is, more than that. And we have some long relationships out here, man. So in a perfect world, we should be working together. But instead, and you'll love this if you know anything about game theory, this is almost the perfect real life example of the prisoner's dilemma. Okay? Oakland is the perfect real life example of the prisoner's dilemma. You would say, what's the prisoner's dilemma, Zenny? The prisoner's dilemma is a game in which you have two people with equal resources in an area. And to make a long story short, the idea is, hey, look, theoretically they should work together, but actually mathematically they don't. They don't. They actually work against each other. The way you overcome the prisoner's dilemma is to realize that you have the possibility of working against each other and then moving forward in harmony. But right now, between the County of Alameda, Oakland Mayor Libby Schaaf, and Oakland City Council President Rebecca Kaplan, you have the prisoner's dilemma situation. Now, the good news is that they don't exist in a vacuum. The rest of the Oakland City Council said, hey, you know what? Let's have the city administration go and talk to the county on our behalf, not the mayor. Okay, not the mayor. And they're supposed to be, I believe, they're supposed to meet this week. Now, November 14th is the next court dates, because someone else had reported, oh, by the way, the next meeting is November 14th. Now, that's a court date. That was a mistake. That was a mistake. So the thing about it is that Libby has to, when you negotiate with her, you have to convince her. She can get defensive really quick. And again, I understand where that comes from, and I sympathize with her, but it can also work against her like that. Black Lion says the fact that she didn't hire you speaks volumes to the situation. Black Lion, I appreciate that. Yeah, I'm very blunt about that being a sore spot with me because of others that she did that led her down the wrong path. Even as much as she's asking me questions, she's paid others thousands of dollars to answer. She's asking me to answer the same question, right? So, and hey, I'm happy to disclose, yeah, because, and word to you all out there who are thinking about getting in politics or, anything else, always be authentic, okay? The one thing that I learned a long, long time ago in working for the city of Oakland is a saying that I developed back then, because Elihu Harris, when he was my boss, the mayor of Oakland, used to say this. He would say, Zinni, there are 1,000 games to play. The question is, each day in City Hall, the question is, which one do you play? And I decided I didn't want to play a game. I figured out a long time ago. I was with Elliott from 1995 to 1999, and then I worked on the Super Bowl after that until 2001. But I learned this. And really, technically, I didn't stop there because I was helping Robert Bob after that. At any rate, my point is this. Honesty is the best weapon. In the city of Oakland, the best weapon is honesty, because everybody else around you is being dishonest. There's always an agenda. There's always something hidden. That's including media. Objective journalist in Oakland? Yeah, right. I mean, you had, like, for example, there was this guy, Dave Bornstein, I think his last name is, who wrote for A&G newspaper. He's criticizing Scott McKibben, who is the Coliseum executive director, right? A JPA. And I'm thinking, wait a minute. Wasn't Scott McKibben your publisher at the time? Not at the time, like later, earlier in our lives, like around 2006. Why don't you disclose that? Because you were there then, and you didn't like some of the decisions he made back then. So what's to say you're going to like him now, right? But he didn't put that in there, and it's supposed to be an objective journalist. Just saying. Just saying, okay? All right? At the end of the day, when you find that when you tell people where you're coming from, you find they appreciate that. Dell says the Las Vegas culture is very white, to use a lack of a better word. Yeah. although I'm not sure where that applies here. John Acala says, you think Raiders might have stayed in Oakland had Amy Trask to win the Raiders? Yes, I do. I think Amy would have gotten along famously with Libby. Um, and I think the two would have been fast friends, and I think that would have driven an agreement that got us a stadium. It would have overridden everything else because, look, Mark Bedane is in the place where Amy Trask would have been. And I like Mark. Mark's a good Mark. I like Mark, okay? There are others who have issues, and I'm not going to name their names. I'll just simply say it like that. And you would say, Zinni, whatever happened to authenticity? Well, that's a little different, all right? Because the minute you mention a name, um, you have to respect, let me put it this way. You have to respect the secrets that other people have. Having said that, I'll say this with respect to me. I like Benet. But Amy would have been, for Oakland situation, a new stadium, worlds better. And that's no slap on Mark. It's just a matter of how the Raiders would not have treated or referred to Libby the way that they referred to her had Amy been in charge. The Raiders have referred to Libby behind the scenes in unpleasant terms. I've said that before, okay? I've written about that, okay? But that would not have come out of Amy Trask's mouth. Amy Trask would not have said that. She would not have that view because Amy herself is a very intelligent, very smart businesswoman. There are men who have problems with people like Amy and people like Libby. Okay? And so in this situation, I want to tell you, having more women involved, particularly Raider president and mayor, would have been fantastic. I'm just being very honest and blunt with you. I'm not trying to put down anybody else, but I know enough to say that with confidence. Yeah, it would have went down entirely different. It really would. And so Dell says, I think the city intervened on any kind of land purchase or upgrades. I don't know what you mean, Dell, at all. Cowboy Wrestler says, let's be honest, the Major League Baseball kind of created this mess by not letting the A's in San Jose. Oh, fuck that. Major League Baseball didn't create the mess. I didn't want the A's to be in San Jose to begin with. To heck with the A's in San Jose. You know? I'm sorry. No, excuse me. I'm not sorry. The A's belong in Oakland. Period. And I'm glad you said that because it gets back to something else I was going to mention. All right. Commissioner Rob Manfred closes out Portland because he says, oh, the A's want public money, but Portland's a private deal. Okay? And they proudly touted that they're not going to bring in government money. So the A's want tax dollars, which they're getting in Oakland. They're not going to get them in Portland. Oh, in Las Vegas, you want to talk about tax dollars and subsidy? You say, oh, we're going to go to the Las Vegas legislature, the Nevada legislature and get the same kind of deal? Ha, ha, ha. You know why? Because the Nevada legislature now is heavily Democrat and more women than men. You think that you're going to squeeze out of them a $750 million subsidy for a baseball stadium, a ballpark in Las Vegas the same way that Adelson got it done for the Raiders? No, because the legislature was entirely different. It was mostly Republican, and even at that, they squeaked out it by a little bit. So anybody who thinks that the A is just going to jump up and march on to Las Vegas, you got a second thought coming. It isn't that easy. What the Raiders got was a blessing from God. Straight out, pure and simple blessing from God. Oh, and the reason why this current issue between Libby, the county, and Rebecca Kaplan doesn't impact the lawsuit is because the lawsuit has nothing to do with that. The lawsuit has everything to do simply with the Raiders not acting in good faith. So try as the Raiders may to spin it the other way. And if any media person picks up on that, look, they're doing a disservice to the public. This is about the Raiders misleading Oakland and not telling the truth regarding gambling. That's what this is about. This is about a lot of unanswered questions. Like, for example, where did the lot group come from? Was the lot group real? Or was it assembled by the Raiders with the idea that, hey, if you don't get this deal, which you're not going to, then you have to turn around and support us? Because that's what's going on. Okay? All right? Cowboy Rush says Las Vegas Athletics equals clickbait. Cowboy Rush says Portland as a city is very similar to Oakland. Politically, public money is not happening there. No. Black Lion asks, but why have the Raiders treated her in this matter? What did she do in the Raiders favor? Black Lion, it's a good question, but the question has to be modified. The question is, why does Mark Davis treat her that way? Why does Mark Davis treat me the way that he has? He asked me to do a plan for him, right? So I do. He doesn't call and meet with me. He acts like he's mostly afraid to talk to me most of the time. And he has to figure out, oh, you said this or said that. It is not my job to smooth and appease just for the heck of it all the time. I do so because I generally like the Raiders and I generally like him, but there are ways that he treats me that I do not think are right, and they're not. But hey, you know what? That's all right. I do not return the favor, and I never will, ever, because it's wrong. Because it's wrong, okay? But think about how he treats me, and some of this is on video, right? So my point is, or how he treats Libby, versus how Amy Trask would respond, or even Mark Bedane. I like Mark, all right? So not even Mark Bedane treats me like that. So it's a matter of personalities. It's a matter of personalities. There's some people who think that because they have a title that you are supposed to just sort of bow down and just give up who you are as a person. I don't care whatever station in life you are, don't lose yourself like that. You'll regret it. Because people who you allow to do that to you, if you give them an inch, they'll take a mile. I'm not talking about the school bully or anything. I'm simply talking about little instances where you're free to speak up when you know something needs to be addressed. Or if you're in media and you know something is wrong and you need to cover it. Be smart. Don't be insulting to people, okay? That's the thing. If they insult you, don't feel like you have to insult back. Like in the case of Mark, I know Mark didn't like that, I had to ask about the whole issue regarding Carson and how it looked like the Raiders were going behind Libby's back because Libby didn't know what was going on. But that's precisely what happened. And it had to be asked, and I asked it. He didn't like it, but look, someone had to point it out. Someone had to dig around and find out what was going on and then get the mayor involved. So this whole issue regarding lack of good faith has been around for a long time. All right, a long time. And again, I'm going to say something. This is something I enjoy. Because there are a lot of people in the Raider organization that I truly love. That's why it hurts so much. Like Cheryl Nichols and Morris Bradshaw. I can go on and on and on. Some people who have left us, some people I haven't seen in a long time. The building that they're in. I mean, there's so many stories. The building they were in before at 7901 Oakport, across from Zone. It used to be called that. Now is Zone, the Zone offices, Zone Technologies. Okay. But I remember when the first PSLs went on sale and there was a line out the door around the block, and they had the parking lot and back and everything. It was a narrow building with the Raiders Insignia on it, much smaller than the building that they're in now, and a pipsqueak sized building compared to what they're building in Henderson, Nevada. So I have a lot of fond memories of the Raiders, and that's when I think of the Raiders. When I think of Mark, I think of that. They always come back to that, because the Raiders are part of the community. They're part of Oakland. Beautiful thing. Black Lion says, I hope the governor gets involved in keeping the Raiders in Oakland. He would become a hero overnight in the Bay Area. That's a great point. And I need to reach out and find out what take the governor's temperature on that. I really do. But it's very, it's very difficult to see this unfold. I will say this. I've said it before. I'll say it again. I want it emphasized. The Raiders deserve a state-of-the-art stadium. Period. They've got a good thing going in Las Vegas. Las Vegas needs a stadium. I do not harbor any idea of the stadium, of this thing being stopped. So you say approach the governor. The governor's not going to stop that. It's gone too far down the pike. That's not going to happen. Okay. Nor should it. As much as we want to maintain the past and nostalgia, Oakland, in my view, should prepare an economic development plan for the future of sports. And here's why. Gambling and gaming are going to be big money. And look, in case you haven't been keeping track of current events, college athletes will be able to make money off their likeness. And it'll open up not just the field for agents, but also for gaming and gambling and everything else. It's going to be a wild free-for-all. And you don't want to be, as a municipality, on the outside of it. The stupidest thing in the world is for a municipality like Oakland to have all of these sports venues and no plan to take advantage of gaming and gambling going forward. So all this squabbling and everything is taking our eye off the ball. Okay? Cowboy says, plus California has 3 other NFL teams. Yeah, that's right. That's right. So what bothers me is that Mark could have stayed in Oakland and really brought gambling with him, because this is a nationwide thing. It's not native only to Nevada anymore. Okay? Gambling has been legalized in, what, I believe 9 states. University says, what will it take? Hey, what would it take for Oakland to get a new team in the history of fan support we have? It will take, first of all, an organizational focus. Business, community, people, fans who set up on a directive. Corey Brown just wrote, there should be pro sports in Oakland. There should. But to set up on a directive and decide that, hey, look, either we get a team by expansion or by relocation. And then set about targets. And then for each target, we have a template that we can apply to all the targets. And that template is a financial template. What's going to cost to get the team? What will it cost for the franchise fee, right? The venue and development. And when we develop the venue this time around, and this is why I don't like the A's plan, make sure that the venue is multi-use. I don't mean like a multi-purpose stadium and what you're thinking about, but I mean in a sense I do. The Minnesota Vikings stadium is a beautiful example of what I'm thinking about, because you can play both baseball and football in it. But it's of a different design, okay? Why do I emphasize that? Because economically it's better. A stadium like that can pay for itself faster. Cowboy says, I don't want to rip another team off. I I want both. I want any way I can get it. Any way I can get it. Because we need to move forward. I know some of you say I don't want another. I'm saying, you know what? We need to move forward because the Raiders have decided they're going to be in Vegas. Fine, let them go. But Oakland must demonstrate that it prevails. And the only way to do that is to set up on a plan for the future that's viable and implementable. All right, folks, I got to go to bed. Let's pick this up tomorrow. Okay? Thanks a lot. Okay, see ya. I hope it was good for you. I hope everybody appreciated the exchange. I certainly did. Look forward to seeing your comments. Okay, see ya. Thanks. Good night. Good night, everybody. See ya. Good night, everybody. Good night. Thank you.